Gina's hands trembled as she held the sleek black credit card in her hand. Her heart raced, not from excitement, but from fear. "What the hell is wrong with your card?" Mako roared, slapping her across the face. Blood burned her cheek. But it wasn't the pain that shocked her. It was the audacity. She wanted to finally buy her mother the house she deserved, the one she had dreamed of for years, and now, her own brother was trying to stop her. Gina realized at that moment, family wasn't always safe, love wasn't always kind, and sometimes the hardest battles came from the people you trusted most. Gina grew up watching her mother, Adora, work tirelessly to keep their small home together. After her father disappeared when she was just 5, it had been only her mother, sacrificing sleep, skipping meals, and juggling jobs to make sure Gina never lacked anything. From a very young age, Gina made a quiet promise to herself that one day, she would repay her mother for all the hardships, all the sleepless nights, and all the worry that had etched lines on her face. She worked hard through school, took extra jobs, and saved every little bit she could. Now, 10 years later, that dream was finally within reach. She had enough to buy her mother a beautiful townhouse in Lagos, a place with bright rooms, a lovely garden, and a rooftop where Adora could watch the sunset in peace. But her older brother Mako had always been different. He lived nearby, always expecting Gina to support him, pay for his failed business, cover his reckless spending, and bend to his whims. Her decision to keep this house for their mother alone felt like betrayal to him. He couldn't understand that this was about her mother's happiness, not about sharing money, and suddenly, Gina realized that keeping her promise would not just be about giving her mother a home. It would be about standing up to the one person who thought he had the right to control her life too. Mako always had a way of smiling and acting polite in front of other people, making them think he was kind and caring. But at home with Gina and their mother, it was a different story. He wanted control over everything, especially Gina's money. He found clever ways to make it look like he cared about the family, convincing their mother, Adora, that Gina's hard-earned savings should be shared. But everyone could see it was not about fairness. It was about Mako wanting to use that money for himself. Every time Gina tried to tell her mother that this house was her gift, Mako would step in with his soft, convincing voice, planting doubt in Adora's mind. He would say things like, "Gina thinks she is better than us because she has money," or "she wants to decide everything without listening to the family." Slowly, he twisted Adora's love for her daughter into worry and suspicion. Gina felt trapped. No matter what she said, no matter how politely she explained, Mako found a way to make her look selfish, greedy, or even heartless. He didn't just argue. He attacked her with guilt, saying she didn't love their mother enough, or that she was trying to make their mother unhappy. One day, when Gina finally confronted him, he sneered, "You think money makes you better than family?" His words hit harder than a slap, not because they were true, but because he had spent years convincing everyone that Gina's dreams were selfish. Mako's obsession with control was not just about money. It was about power, about making Gina feel small, about turning her family against her so he could stay in charge. And the worst part was, it almost worked. Gina's mother, who had always trusted her, began to question her. Adora's eyes would flicker between them, confused and torn. Gina realized that no matter how much she loved her mother, she would have to fight not just to buy the house, but to protect her mother from Mako's manipulation. Every meeting, every phone call, every interaction became a battle. Gina understood that Mako was dangerous not because of what he said, but because he knew exactly how to hurt her where it would hurt most, with her family, with her mother, and with her own sense of right and wrong. And even though he smiled at everyone else, Gina knew she could never trust him again, because his charm hid a cold, controlling heart that would stop at nothing to bend everyone to his will. The day Gina had been waiting for finally arrived. She had saved every penny for years, and today she was going to make the down payment on her mother's dream townhouse. Her heart raced with excitement as she stepped out, clutching the sleek black card that represented her years of hard work and sacrifices. But before she could even reach the bank, Mako appeared, standing in her path with that same smug look that always made her stomach twist. Without a word, he grabbed the card from her hand, yanking it roughly and holding it like a trophy. "You don't understand responsibility," he barked, his voice sharp and full of false authority. "You can't just spend without my approval." Gina froze, stunned. People passing by slowed to watch the scene. whispering to one another. The heat rose to her face, not just from the slap that was about to come, but from the humiliation of being confronted so openly by her own brother. When she refused to hand the card back, refusing to let him control what she had worked so hard for, Mako's anger exploded. His hand struck her cheek hard, leaving a burning red mark. Pain flashed through her, sharp and immediate, but it was nothing compared to the shock of betrayal. The feeling that the person who was supposed to protect the family was the one trying to destroy her dream. Passers-by gasped, some staring, some whispering, but Gina barely noticed them. Her focus narrowed to one thing: her mother and the promise she had made to give her a home. The slap was meant to scare her, to make her give up, but instead it fueled a fire inside her. Her cheek burned, her heart pounded, and her hands trembled, but determination filled her completely. She looked Mako straight in the eyes, seeing the greed and control that had always been there, and she made a silent vow. No one, not even her own brother, would decide her mother's happiness. Not today, not ever. She took a deep breath, wiped the sting from her cheek, and stood taller, refusing to cower. That moment in the middle of the crowded street was more than a confrontation. It was a turning point. Gina realized that to protect her mother and fulfill the promise she had made, she would have to be stronger than Mako, smarter than his manipulations, and braver than the fear that threatened to hold her back. Every eye watching them faded into the background. The slap was an attempt to break her, but all it did was make her resolve unshakable. This was her fight, her money, her promise, and she would not let Mako, or anyone else, take it away. In that moment, the crowded street, the stairs, and the anger all melted into one clear truth: Gina would not back down. Gina realized that anger and confrontation alone wouldn't protect her mother's dream. Mako was too clever, too persuasive, and he knew exactly how to twist every situation to make her look selfish. She needed a plan, one that Mako could never see coming. Quietly, she started keeping records of everything he said and did: the threats, the manipulations, even the times he humiliated her in public. She saved screenshots of messages, recorded conversations when she could, and wrote down every incident in a small notebook she kept hidden. Every word became a piece of armor she could use if things got worse. Next, she took steps to secure her savings. Without telling anyone, she opened a separate bank account and moved all her money there, making sure it was safe and completely under her control. This account was invisible to Mako, so he couldn't interfere or try to claim it. Then came the property. She contacted a real estate agent she could trust, someone who understood how delicate the situation was and promised complete discretion. The agent assured her that nothing would be done publicly until she was ready, and the paperwork could be handled without Mako knowing. Gina also realized she needed support beyond just money and paperwork. She reached out to friends she knew were influential, people who could provide guidance, advice, and protection if Mako tried to create obstacles. She explained the situation carefully, without exposing her entire plan, and her friends promised to help quietly. With every call, every secret meeting, and every document saved, Gina felt a small surge of power and relief. She was no longer completely at Mako's mercy. She was building a shield around herself and her mother, piece by piece, planning every move in advance. Even when she had to pretend to be calm around Mako, smiling and polite, she was always thinking 2 steps ahead, imagining what he might do and how she could counter it. This strategy gave her confidence. She could still be gentle and respectful, but she would not be manipulated. Every threat he made, every accusation he tried to throw at her, she had a way to respond, a way to protect her mother, and a way to make sure her money and her promise could not be stolen. Gina understood that winning didn't mean fighting with fists or shouting. It meant being smart, patient, and prepared. Her mother's happiness, the house she had dreamed of, depended on this careful planning. And for the first time in a long time, Gina felt she was truly in control, ready to see her plan through without letting Mako even realize how far ahead she already was. Late at night, after the city had quieted down and her small apartment was filled only with the soft hum of the fan, Gina sat on the edge of her bed, her hand brushing over the mark on her cheek where Mako had hit her. Her mind wandered back to all the times he had made her life harder. The moments she had tried to shine but he had always found a way to block her. She remembered when she had struggled to pay her school fees and Mako tried to convince their mother that it was her fault for being irresponsible. even though he had spent years taking advantage of every opportunity she had worked for. She remembered saving for her first car, only to have him belittle her excitement and try to claim credit for helping her buy it. And the scholarship, her biggest achievement at the time. He had tried to twist it, telling everyone he had guided her to it, as if her years of hard work didn't matter. The memories stung, but they also reminded her why she could never give up. Then she thought of her mother, Adora, who had always been her true anchor. She could feel her mother's gentle hands on her shoulders, the way she had comforted her through every setback, every humiliation, every time Mako had tried to make her doubt herself. She remembered her mother's soft voice whispering in her ear, "One day, you'll shine without anyone dimming you." Those words echoed in her mind now, stronger than any insult or slap, wrapping around her like a shield. Gina realized that she wasn't fighting Mako for pride, or to prove she was smarter or stronger. She was fighting for her mother, for the woman who had given her everything, for the life her mother deserved. Every memory of Mako's manipulation made her more determined, more focused. The sleepless nights, the doubts, the obstacles, everything became fuel, a reminder that she had a purpose bigger than herself. Gina closed her eyes for a moment and let herself feel the love and sacrifices of her mother, letting that warmth fill her with courage. She understood that this house was not just a building. It was a symbol of gratitude, love, and freedom. And as she opened her eyes, her resolve hardened. Mako could try to control her, could try to scare her, could even hit her again. But he could never touch the strength that had grown inside her from years of struggle, from the memories of her mother's unwavering support, and from the knowledge that every step she took now was to finally give her mother the happiness she had earned. The day of the property signing finally arrived, and Gina could feel her heart pounding in her chest. She had planned every detail carefully, but nothing could prepare her for what happened next. As she entered the office, she saw Mako standing there, a forced smile on his face, and beside him, their mother, Adora, looking nervous and confused. "Gina, you have to cancel this," Mako said, trying to sound calm, but his voice carried the sharp edge of control he always used. "This isn't just about you. You can't make this decision alone." Gina's stomach tightened, but she didn't falter. She had anticipated this moment and she was ready. With a calm but firm voice, she pulled out her documents, showing the fully paid bank account, the confirmation of the transaction, and the lawyer waiting to finalize everything. The real estate agent, standing beside her, nodded in agreement, ready to transfer the deed immediately. Mako's confident smile faltered. He opened his mouth to argue, to twist words, to try his usual manipulation, but Gina had prepared for this too. She calmly presented the evidence she had collected over the past months. Emails where he pressured their mother, text messages where he tried to claim her achievements, even video clips showing him belittling her in front of friends and family. Each piece of evidence hit like a hammer, leaving him speechless, unable to respond. The agent, seeing the clarity of the situation, spoke firmly, "Madam Gina has full authority to complete this transaction." The words echoed in the room, clear and undeniable. Mako's face turned red, anger and embarrassment mingling as he realized his control had ended. Adora looked from her son to Gina, her eyes wide with shock and slowly filling with understanding. For the first time, she could see clearly how much Mako had manipulated her over the years, how he had twisted every situation to make Gina look selfish. And Gina stood there, calm, confident and unwavering, her years of planning and courage shining through every move she made. She wasn't just buying a house, she was reclaiming control, protecting her mother, and proving that nothing could stop her when she was determined. Mako's protests faded into silence, replaced by stunned gasps from the few witnesses in the office. Every calculated step Gina had taken, the hidden account, the documented evidence, the trusted agent, had led to this moment. It wasn't just a victory over a difficult brother. It was the turning point where she showed that she would not be intimidated, that she could defend her promise and her mother's happiness. And as the lawyer began signing the final papers, Gina felt a rush of relief and triumph, knowing that at last, her mother's dream would become real, and Mako's attempts to control her had failed completely. Adora stood frozen, her eyes moving between her two children as the confrontation unfolded. She had watched Mako try to argue, trying to twist every word, every action, to make Gina seem selfish, reckless, or ungrateful. For years she had believed him, had doubted her own daughter's intentions, thinking maybe she had been spoiled, or too focused on herself. But now, seeing Gina calmly present the proof, the bank statements, the lawyer ready, and the agent prepared to finalize the house, everything clicked. Every time Mako had whispered doubts in her ear, every time he had manipulated her love for Gina into worry or suspicion, she realized it had been him shaping her thoughts, not Gina doing anything wrong. Adora's chest tightened, and tears filled her eyes as understanding washed over her. She had judged her daughter unfairly, and the realization hurt more than she could have imagined. Gina, all these years you were the one protecting me, she whispered, her voice trembling. The words were barely audible, but they carried a weight of truth, of apology, of awakening. For the first time, Adora saw Gina clearly, not as the spoiled child she sometimes thought her to be, but as a strong, determined woman who had worked quietly and courageously to give her mother happiness, to keep her safe from manipulation. She saw the countless sacrifices Gina had made, the nights she had worked tirelessly, and the careful planning that had led to this moment. Adora's hands shook as she reached for her daughter, a soft embrace bridging the years of misunderstanding. In that hug, all the doubt, all the guilt, all the pain of being deceived by Mako melted away. She realized that her daughter's strength, courage, and integrity had always been there, quietly building a life that would one day protect them both. And in that moment, Adora promised herself that she would never let anyone make her doubt Gina again. She saw her not just as a child, but as an equal, a protector, and a woman who had the wisdom and courage to stand against lies, manipulation, and control. Every tear she shed was a mix of sorrow for the past and relief for the present. She finally understood that Gina's actions were never about pride or selfishness. They were about love, about keeping their family intact, and about giving her mother the life she truly deserved. As she held her daughter tightly, she felt a surge of pride, a deep respect, and a renewed bond that was stronger than anything Mako could ever break. For the first time, Adora truly saw the woman her daughter had become, and she knew that nothing, not even her son's manipulations, could ever change the love and trust between them again. Mako's face twisted with anger as he realized nothing he had done so far had worked. He clenched his fists, his voice trembling with frustration. "If you think you can do this without me, I'll take this to court. I'll claim every family asset you're trying to. Sneak away," he shouted, trying to sound threatening, trying to regain control. But Gina didn't flinch. She had expected this moment, and had prepared for it carefully. Calmly, she leaned forward and showed the notarized documents her mother had signed, confirming that the purchase of the townhouse was entirely Gina's initiative. She had also spoken to a lawyer in advance, who had assured her that everything was legally sound. Every paper, every signature, every step of the process had been done correctly, leaving Mako with nothing to argue. Her calmness only made him angrier. He waved his arms, shouted accusations, and tried to twist the situation in his favor. But Gina remained steady, speaking only when necessary, her voice quiet but firm. Her mother, Adora, stood by her side, finally confident and supportive, seeing clearly for the first time how much Gina had done to protect them both. Mako's desperation grew, but it was too late. He could threaten all he wanted. The law, the evidence, and the preparation were all against him. There was no way he could take control this time. Realizing he had lost, he stormed out of the office, slamming the door behind him. The sound echoed in the room, leaving silence in his wake. And in that silence, Gina and her mother breathed for the first time without tension or fear. Slowly, the corners of their mouths lifted into smiles. Then soft laughter bubbled out, a mix of relief, joy, and quiet triumph. The battle was over. Mako had tried everything to intimidate, manipulate, and control, but he had failed completely. Gina's careful planning, courage, and calm determination had won the day. Adora held her daughter's hands tightly, tears of pride and happiness in her eyes, whispering softly, "You did it, my daughter. You protected us, and you gave me this gift." Gina smiled, feeling the weight of years of struggle lift off her shoulders. In that moment, they didn't just celebrate the house, they celebrated freedom, safety, and victory over fear and control. Mako's fury was gone from the room, replaced by peace and laughter. Gina realized that standing firm, being smart, and protecting what was hers and her mother's was the ultimate victory. They had faced manipulation, threats, and anger, but in the end love, preparation, and courage had won. And as they shared that quiet, victorious moment together, Gina felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. She had kept her promise, defended her mother, and finally shown that no one could take away what they had earned. The house was theirs, and so was the peace that came with it. The day the townhouse officially became hers, Adora could hardly believe it. The papers were signed, the keys were handed over, and every corner of the house, from the sunny garden filled with her favorite flowers to the rooftop terrace where she could watch the city lights, belonged to her. She walked through each room slowly, touching the walls, imagining family meals, quiet mornings, and laughter filling the space. Gina watched her mother's face light up with happiness, and for a moment, all the stress, the planning, and the battles with Mako felt worth every second. That evening, Gina organized a small gathering in the new home. It wasn't a grand party, no flashy decorations or unnecessary extravagance. This celebration was different. Only loyal friends and trusted relatives were invited, people who respected boundaries and knew how to honor what this moment truly meant. They shared stories, laughed softly, and toasted quietly to new beginnings. The house was filled with warmth and genuine love, a stark contrast to the tension and fear that had once lingered in Gina's life. In the midst of the laughter, Adora hugged her daughter tightly, holding her as if never wanting to let go. Her voice trembled slightly, full of emotion as she whispered, "You didn't just buy me a home, you bought our freedom." Those words sank deep into Gina's heart. She realized that the townhouse was more than just bricks and walls. It was a symbol of independence, courage, and triumph over manipulation and fear. It was the proof that careful planning, patience, and love could overcome even the most controlling forces in life. Gina looked around the room at the people who had supported her, feeling gratitude for their presence and their respect for the boundaries she had fought so hard to set. Every smile, every hug, every word of encouragement reminded her that she had chosen the right path. The townhouse wasn't just a gift to her mother. It was a statement, a declaration that they no longer had to live under fear, control, or the judgment of anyone, even family who thought they had power over them. And as the sun set over the rooftop terrace, casting a golden glow over the garden, Gina felt a sense of empowerment she had never known before. This victory wasn't only about money or a house. It was about reclaiming life, respect, and dignity. That night, as mother and daughter sat together in the new living room, their hearts full of joy and relief, they understood something profound. The home was theirs, yes, but the true gift was the freedom, peace, and strength they had built together, brick by brick, with love and determination guiding every step. Months passed, and Gina didn't stop at giving her mother a home. She remembered all the women she had heard about, friends, neighbors, even strangers, whose money, jobs, or savings were controlled by family members who thought they had the right to decide everything. Using her story as inspiration, she launched a small community initiative to help these women take control of their finances, plan their futures, and protect themselves from manipulation. She shared tips, guided them on saving secretly if needed, and connected them with trusted professionals who could offer advice or legal support. Slowly, her initiative grew, and people began noticing. Her story, filled with courage and clever planning, went viral online. Thousands of young women from different cities and even different countries reached out to thank her, to say that she had inspired them to take their first steps toward independence. They called her a hero, a fighter, a guide who had shown that standing up to controlling family members was possible. Meanwhile, Mako's reputation crumbled. News of his attempts to control Gina, to manipulate their mother, and his final failure spread through their social circle. He found himself publicly disgraced, unable to intimidate or manipulate anyone anymore. Gina, however, remained calm and unbothered. She had learned that true power came from preparation, courage, and love, not from fear or control. One evening, Gina and her mother stood together on the rooftop terrace of the townhouse. The city lights twinkled below, a sea of possibilities stretching in every direction. The breeze was soft, carrying with it the sense of freedom they had fought for and won. Adora looked at her daughter, pride and gratitude shining in her eyes. "We built this together," she said softly, her voice full of emotion. Gina smiled, feeling the weight of everything they had overcome. "No one can ever take it from us," she replied, her hand gently holding her mother's. In that moment, the house wasn't just a building, and the lights below weren't just part of a city. They were symbols of everything they had accomplished: strength, courage, independence, and an unbreakable bond between mother and daughter. Gina knew that this was only the beginning. They had secured their present and built a foundation for the future, not just for themselves, but for countless other women who would follow in their footsteps. And as they stood side by side, watching the world below, both mother and daughter understood one undeniable truth: no challenge, no person, no threat could ever take away what they had earned, built, and protected together. He tried to slap her dreams away, but she turned every blow into power, and gave her mother not just a home, but a legacy.